My parents said they couldn't help me with my hospital bills, then renovated my sister's entire house. And now they're asking why I'm not around anymore. My name is Sarah, I'm 28, and this is the story of how I learned that sometimes the people who are supposed to love you unconditionally are the ones who hurt you the most. Let me start from the beginning. I have a younger sister, Madison, who's 24. Growing up, it was always clear that Madison was the favorite. She was a cheerleader, the homecoming queen, the one who could do no wrong. I was the quiet, studious one who got good grades but never quite measured up to Madison's effortless charm. My parents, Robert and Linda, made it clear through their actions, if not their words, that Madison was their pride and joy. Madison married her high school sweetheart, Tyler, right after college. He comes from money, his family owns several car dealerships around our city in Ohio, and he's everything my parents wanted in a son-in-law. Meanwhile, I was working my way through nursing school, taking out loans and working multiple jobs to make ends meet. My parents were proud of me for becoming a nurse, they said, but their attention and resources always seemed to flow toward Madison and her picture-perfect life. 3 years ago, everything changed. I was working a night shift at the hospital when I started experiencing severe chest pain and shortness of breath. At first, I thought it was just stress and exhaustion, but when the pain became unbearable, my colleague insisted on running some tests. The results were shocking. At 25 years old, I was having a heart attack. It turns out I have a rare genetic condition called familial hypercholesterolemia. Despite being young, active, and eating well, my cholesterol levels were dangerously high due to genetics. The heart attack was just the beginning. I needed emergency surgery, followed by months of cardiac rehabilitation, medications that cost hundreds of dollars each month, and regular specialist appointments. The bills started piling up immediately. Even with insurance, the out-of-pocket costs were staggering. The initial hospital stay alone cost me $15,000 after insurance. The ongoing medications, specialist visits, and follow-up procedures added up to another $800 to $1,200 per month. As a newly graduated nurse with student loans, I was drowning financially. I swallowed my pride and called my parents. I explained the situation, showed them the medical bills, and asked if they could help me with even a portion of the costs. I wasn't asking for a handout, I offered to pay them back with interest, to set up a payment plan, anything. I was desperate. My father sighed heavily and said, "Sarah, you know we'd love to help, but money is tight right now. We're on a fixed income with Dad's retirement, and we just don't have that kind of money lying around." My mother nodded along, adding, "Maybe you can work out a payment plan with a hospital? Or look into financial aid programs?" I was devastated but tried to understand. They were retired, living on a pension and Social Security. I applied for every hardship program I could find, took on extra shifts despite my doctor's warnings about stress, and even started a small GoFundMe that raised about $2,000 from friends and coworkers. For 6 months, I struggled. I was taking generic versions of my medications when possible, skipping some specialist appointments, and living on ramen noodles to make ends meet. The stress was affecting my recovery, and my cardiologist warned me that I was putting my health at risk. Then I saw the Facebook posts. Madison had been posting photos of contractors at her house. New kitchen cabinets, granite countertops, hardwood floors throughout the entire house, a completely renovated master bathroom with a soaking tub and walk-in shower, and professional landscaping. The posts were filled with excitement about their home makeover. At first, I assumed Tyler's family money was paying for it. But then Madison posted a photo with my parents, all of them wearing matching t-shirts that said Renovation Crew, with a caption that made my blood run cold, "So grateful for Mom and Dad for making our dream home a reality. We couldn't have done this without your incredible generosity. #best parents ever #dream home complete." I called Madison immediately. "Hey, congratulations on the renovations. Tyler's parents must be so generous to pay for all that." Madison laughed. "Oh no, Tyler's parents didn't pay for any of it. Mom and Dad gave us the money. Can you believe how amazing they are? They said they wanted to help us build equity in our home and set us up for success. The whole thing cost about $45,000, but they said it was an investment in our future." $45,000. I hung up and sat in my car in the hospital parking lot, shaking. They had told me they didn't have money to help with my life-saving medical bills, but they had $45,000 to give Madison for home renovations she didn't even need. I called my parents that night. "Mom, I saw Madison's posts about the renovations. She said you and Dad paid for them?" There was a long pause. "Well, yes, we decided to help Madison and Tyler with some home improvements." $45,000 worth? Another pause. "Sarah, that's different. This is an investment. It increases the value of their home. Your medical bills are just expenses. Mom, those expenses are keeping me alive. Don't be dramatic, Sarah. You're fine now. You're working, you're healthy. Madison and Tyler are trying to start a family, and we wanted to help them create a stable home environment." I was stunned by the coldness in her voice. "So my health crisis doesn't matter, but Madison's kitchen upgrade does? Sarah, you're being unreasonable. We did what we could for you. We visited you in the hospital, we brought you flowers. We've been supportive. Flowers. They brought me flowers while I was drowning in debt from the medical bills that saved my life, but they gave Madison enough money to renovate her entire house. I hung up and cried for hours. But then something clicked. I was done begging for scraps of their affection and support. I was done being the daughter who was expected to be grateful for the bare minimum while Madison got everything handed to her. I decided to take control of my life. First, I applied for a position at a hospital across the country in Seattle. The pay was significantly better, and they offered excellent health insurance. I got the job and gave my current hospital 2 weeks' notice. Second, I stopped reaching out to my family. No more phone calls, no more texts, no more social media interactions. I didn't block them or make any dramatic announcements. I simply stopped. Third, I focused on building my own life. I made friends with my new co-workers, joined a hiking group, started dating again. For the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe. The silence from my family lasted about 6 months. Then the phone calls started. My mother called first. "Sarah, we haven't heard from you in so long. How are you doing?" "I'm fine, Mom. Just busy with work and my life here in Seattle." "Seattle? What do you mean? You moved to Seattle?" I realized they hadn't even noticed I'd moved across the country. "Yes, I moved here about 4 months ago for a new job." "Why didn't you tell us?" "We had no idea." "I figured if it was important to you, you would have noticed I wasn't around." The conversation was awkward and brief. A few weeks later, my father called with a similar conversation. Then Madison called, confused about why I hadn't been liking her Instagram posts or responding to her texts. I kept my responses polite but distant. I was building a new life, and I was happier than I'd been in years. My health had stabilized, I was financially secure, and I was surrounded by people who actually cared about my well-being. Then came Christmas. My mother called in early December. "Sarah, you're coming home for Christmas, right? We always spend Christmas together as a family." "I'm working Christmas Eve and the day after Christmas, so I won't be able to make it." "Can't you request the time off? Christmas is important to our family." "I'm sorry, but I can't. I hope you all have a wonderful time." "Sarah, this is ridiculous. You're acting like a child. We don't understand why you're being so distant." And there it was. I was being distant. I was acting like a child. No acknowledgement of how they treated me, no recognition of the double standard, just blame for my reaction to their behavior. Christmas came and went. I worked both days I'd mentioned and actually volunteered for extra shifts. I spent New Year's Eve with friends from work, and for the first time in years, I felt genuinely happy during the holidays. In January, things escalated. Madison called, crying. "Sarah, I don't understand what's wrong with you. Mom and Dad are so hurt that you didn't come home for Christmas. They're worried something's wrong with you mentally. They think you might be having some kind of breakdown because of your heart problems." "I'm not having a breakdown, Madison. I'm just living my life." "But why are you shutting us out? We're family." I took a deep breath. "Madison, do you remember when I had my heart attack? Of course, that was so scary. Do you remember how I asked Mom and Dad for help with my medical bills?" "Vaguely, I think you mentioned something about that. They told me they couldn't help because money was tight. Then a few months later, they gave you $45,000 to renovate your house." Silence. "Madison, I almost died. I'm dealing with a chronic condition that requires expensive medication and regular monitoring for the rest of my life. But somehow there was no money to help me with that, while there was plenty of money to upgrade your kitchen." "Sarah, that's different. The house renovation was an investment." "In what? Your comfort? Your Instagram posts?" "Madison, I needed help to literally stay alive and manage my medical condition. You wanted granite countertops. You're being unfair. Mom and Dad love both of us equally. If you really believe that, then you're either lying to yourself or you're more selfish than I thought." Madison hung up on me. A week later, my father called. His tone was angry from the start. "Sarah, your mother is crying every day because of how you're treating this family. Madison told us about your phone call, and I can't believe how ungrateful and manipulative you're being." "Manipulative?" "Yes. You're trying to make us feel guilty for helping Madison and Tyler with their house. That was our decision, and we don't owe you an explanation." "You're right, Dad. You don't owe me an explanation. Just like I don't owe you a relationship." "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means I'm tired of being the afterthought in this family. I'm tired of watching Madison get everything she wants while I'm expected to be grateful for scraps. I'm tired of being blamed for being hurt by the way you've treated me. Sarah, we did the best we could when you were sick. We visited you, we supported you emotionally. You brought me flowers, Dad. $45,000 worth of flowers, apparently. That's enough. You're acting like a spoiled brat. So we helped your sister with her house, so what? That doesn't mean we love you any less. Doesn't it? When I was drowning in medical debt, struggling to afford medication that keeps me alive, you couldn't spare a dime. But when Madison wanted to upgrade her perfectly fine house, you had $45,000 ready to go. If that's not showing me exactly how much you value me versus her, I don't know what is. Sarah, you're twisting everything around. We're not going to be held hostage by your jealousy and resentment. I'm not holding anyone hostage. I'm just choosing to spend my time and energy on people who actually care about my well-being. My father hung up on me too. For several months, there was blissful silence. I threw myself into my work, took up rock climbing, started volunteering at a local animal shelter. I was building a life filled with people who valued me, and I was genuinely happy. Then my Aunt Carol, my mother's sister, called me in June. Sarah, honey, I hope you don't mind me calling. Your mom gave me your number. Hi, Aunt Carol. What's going on? Well, I wanted to talk to you about this situation with your parents. They're really struggling with your absence from the family. I sighed. Aunt Carol, I appreciate your concern, but this is between me and my parents. I know, sweetie, but I think there might be some misunderstanding here. Your mom told me you're upset about them helping Madison with her house? It's more complicated than that. Can you help me understand? I just want to see if there's a way to bring this family back together. I liked Aunt Carol. She'd always been kind to me, so I decided to explain the situation fully. I told her about my heart attack, the medical bills, my parents' refusal to help, and then Madison's renovation. There was a long silence after I finished. Sarah, honey, I had no idea. Your mother told me you were jealous about Madison's house renovations, but she never mentioned anything about your medical bills or asking for help. I'm not surprised. Sweetie, I need to tell you something. Your parents aren't struggling financially. Your father's pension is very generous, and they have substantial savings. Last month, they went on a 3-week cruise to Alaska that cost $12,000. The month before that, your mother bought a new car. My heart sank. I'd suspected they weren't as financially strapped as they claimed, but hearing it confirmed was still painful. Aunt Carol, I appreciate you telling me this, but it doesn't really change anything. The money isn't even the main issue anymore. It's the lie, the favoritism, and the way they've treated me when I tried to address it. I understand, honey. I really do. I just hate seeing this family torn apart. I'm not tearing anything apart. I'm just choosing not to participate in a dynamic where I'm consistently devalued and then blamed for being hurt by it. We talked for another hour. Aunt Carol was sympathetic and understanding, and by the end of the call, I could tell she was beginning to see the situation from my perspective. A few weeks later, she called me back. Sarah, I talked to your mother. How did that go? Not well, I'm afraid. I asked her about your medical bills and why they didn't help you. She got very defensive and said it was complicated, that you were being dramatic about your health issues, and that the renovation for Madison was different because it was an investment. Sounds about right. Then I asked her about the cruise and the new car and pointed out that they clearly aren't struggling financially. She got angry and said I didn't understand their situation. What did you say? I told her that I understood the situation perfectly. They chose to prioritize Madison's wants over your needs, and now they're upset that there are consequences for that choice. I smiled despite myself. I bet that went over well. She hung up on me. But Sarah, I want you to know that not everyone in this family thinks you're wrong. Your cousin Jennifer agrees with you completely. So does your Uncle Mark. We've been talking, and we're all pretty disgusted by how this has been handled. It was comforting to know that some family members saw the situation clearly, but it didn't change my decision to maintain distance from my parents and Madison. The next major incident happened in September, almost a year after I'd moved to Seattle. Madison called me, crying again, but this time it was different. Sarah, I'm pregnant. Despite everything, I felt a genuine moment of happiness for her. Congratulations, Madison. That's wonderful news. Thank you. Sarah, I know things have been weird between us, but I really want you to be part of this baby's life. I want my child to know their aunt. I'd like that too, Madison. There's going to be a baby shower in November. Mom's planning it, and I really want you to come. And there was the catch. Madison, I'm happy for you, and I want to be part of the baby's life, but I'm not ready to pretend everything's fine with Mom and Dad. Sarah, can't you just put this aside for one day? For me and the baby? Madison, it's not that simple. This isn't just some petty argument. This is about years of being treated like a second-class member of this family. But I never treated you that way. Didn't you? Madison, you knew how much I was struggling with my medical bills. You saw me working double shifts, stressed about money, worried about my health. But when Mom and Dad handed you $45,000 for house renovations you didn't need, did you ever think about how that might affect me? Silence. Did you ever suggest that maybe they should help me instead? Did you ever say, hey, maybe Sarah needs this money more than I need new countertops? More silence. Madison, you benefited from their favoritism your entire life, and you never once questioned it or stood up for me. So no, you didn't actively mistreat me, but you certainly didn't support me either. I didn't think about it that way. I know you didn't. That's the problem. It never occurred to you to think about it because you were always the priority. Madison was crying harder now. Sarah, I'm sorry. I really am. I didn't realize. I mean, I knew Mom and Dad always paid more attention to me, but I thought that was just because I was more outgoing or something. Madison, they gave you $45,000 while I was rationing my heart medication. It wasn't about being outgoing. You're right. God, Sarah, you're absolutely right. I'm so sorry. For the first time in months, I felt like maybe there was hope for my relationship with Madison. I appreciate that, Madison. I really do. So will you come to the baby shower? I sighed. Madison, I want to support you, but I'm not ready to be in the same room as Mom and Dad and pretend everything's fine. That wouldn't be fair to any of us. What if? What if I talked to them? What if I tried to make them understand? You can try, but Madison, they've made it very clear how they feel about this situation. Dad called me a spoiled brat and accused me of being manipulative. Mom said my medical bills were just expenses while your renovation was an investment. They're not going to suddenly see my perspective. But what if they did? What if they apologized? Madison, I love you, and I want to be part of your child's life. But I need to see real change, not just words. An apology means nothing if the behavior doesn't change. We talked for another hour, and by the end, I agreed to consider coming to the baby shower if my parents genuinely apologized and acknowledged how their actions had affected me. Madison must have had quite a conversation with them because 2 days later, my phone rang. It was my mother. Sarah, Madison told us you might come to the baby shower if we apologize. That's not exactly what I said, Mom. Well, fine. I'm sorry you were hurt by our decision to help Madison with her house. Mom, that's not an apology. That's you being sorry I had feelings about your actions. What do you want me to say, Sarah? I want you to acknowledge that you had the money to help me when I was struggling with medical bills, but you chose not to. I want you to acknowledge that you lied to me about your financial situation. I want you to acknowledge that you consistently prioritized Madison over me my entire life. Sarah, we never prioritized Madison over you. We love you both equally. Mom, actions speak louder than words. Your actions have consistently shown that Madison's happiness is more important to you than my well-being. That's not true. Mom, I almost died. I spent months struggling to afford medication that keeps me alive. You told me you couldn't help because money was tight. Then you turned around and gave Madison $45,000 for cosmetic home improvements. How is that loving us equally? The house renovation was an investment in Madison and Tyler's future. And my health isn't an investment in my future? There was a long pause. Sarah, I don't know what you want from us. I want you to tell the truth. I want you to admit that you have always favored Madison and that your decision to help her but not me was part of that pattern. I want you to acknowledge that you hurt me deeply and that you're sorry for that hurt, not just sorry that I'm upset about it. I can't do that because it's not true. Then I guess we don't have anything else to talk about. Sarah, you're tearing this family apart. No, Mom. I'm just refusing to pretend that the way you've treated me is acceptable. There's a difference. I hung up. Madison called me an hour later. Sarah, Mom called me crying. She said you were mean to her. Madison, I was honest with her. If honesty feels mean to her, that should tell you something. She said she tried to apologize, but you wouldn't accept it. She said she was sorry I was hurt. That's not the same as acknowledging that her actions were wrong. Madison sighed. Sarah, maybe she's never going to give you the apology you want. Does that mean you're going to miss out on being part of my child's life? It was a fair question, and one I'd been wrestling with. Madison, I want to be part of your child's life. But I also need to protect my own mental health. Being around Mom and Dad right now is painful for me. They're not just refusing to acknowledge what they did, they're actively trying to make me the villain for being hurt by it. What if you just came to the shower for an hour? Just to show support for me? Madison, what kind of support would that be? Me sitting there, miserable and uncomfortable, while everyone pretends everything is fine? How does that help you? I miss you, Sarah. I miss having my sister around. I miss you too, Madison. But your sister comes with feelings and experiences that apparently no one in this family wants to acknowledge. We agreed that Madison would visit me in Seattle after the baby was born. It wasn't ideal, but it was a compromise that allowed me to support her without putting myself in a harmful situation. The baby shower happened without me. I sent a gift and a card congratulating Madison. According to Aunt Carol, who attended, my absence was the elephant in the room. Several family members asked where I was, and when my mother explained that I was going through a difficult phase, Aunt Carol corrected her and explained the real situation to anyone who would listen. In December, Madison gave birth to a beautiful baby girl named Emma. I flew to Ohio to meet my niece, staying in a hotel and limiting my visit to times when my parents wouldn't be around. It was awkward, but it allowed me to bond with Emma and support Madison during her recovery. During that visit, Madison and I had our most honest conversation yet. Sarah, I've been thinking about everything you said, and I need you to know that I get it now. What do you mean? I mean, I see the favoritism. I see how differently they treat us. I see how they've always made excuses for me while holding you to impossible standards. I see how they've consistently prioritized my happiness over your well-being. I was shocked. This was the first time Madison had ever acknowledged the dynamic I'd been living with my entire life. Madison, I appreciate you saying that. It means more than you know. I'm sorry, Sarah. I'm sorry for not seeing it sooner, and I'm sorry for benefiting from it without ever questioning it. I'm sorry for not standing up for you. Madison, you were just living your life. I don't blame you for how our parents chose to treat us. But I should have seen it. I should have done something. Maybe. But you were also just a kid for most of it. The important thing is that you see it now. Madison was quiet for a moment, holding Emma. Sarah, I want to do better. I want Emma to grow up in a family where everyone is treated equally. What does that mean? It means if Mom and Dad continue to play favorites, I'm going to call them out on it. It means I'm going to make sure Emma knows her Aunt Sarah and understands the kind of strong, independent woman she is. It means I'm not going to accept their help if they're not also willing to help you when you need it. I started crying. For the first time in years, I felt like maybe I had an ally in my family. Madison, you don't have to do that. I don't want to come between you and our parents. Sarah, you're not coming between us. They did that all by themselves with their choices. I'm just choosing to see the situation clearly now. We spent the rest of my visit bonding over Emma and talking honestly about our childhood and family dynamics. For the first time, Madison acknowledged things I'd been experiencing for decades, how our parents made excuses for her behavior while punishing me for the same things, how they bragged about her achievements while downplaying mine, how they consistently expected me to be understanding and mature while allowing her to be selfish and demanding. It was painful for Madison to confront these truths, but it was healing for me to finally have someone in my family validate my experiences. After I returned to Seattle, Madison started calling me regularly. She shared photos and videos of Emma, asked for my advice on baby care, I am a nurse, after all, and kept me updated on family drama. The drama, it turned out, was significant. According to Madison, my parents were struggling with my absence more than they'd expected. They'd apparently thought I would eventually get over it and come crawling back, apologizing for my behavior. When that didn't happen, and when other family members started questioning their actions, they became defensive and angry. The breaking point came at Christmas. Madison decided to spend Christmas morning at her house with Tyler and Emma, rather than going to our parents' house as they'd expected. When my mother called to ask when they were coming over, Madison explained that they were starting their own Christmas traditions as a new family. But we always spend Christmas together. My mother protested. Mom, that's not true. Last year, Sarah didn't come because you two refused to acknowledge how you've hurt her. This year, I'm choosing to stay home with my family. Madison, you can't be serious. You're going to abandon us too? I'm not abandoning anyone. I'm just not going to pretend that everything is fine when it's not. Sarah is my sister, and the way you've treated her is wrong. According to Madison, this led to a massive fight. My parents accused her of being manipulated by me, of choosing sides, of being ungrateful after everything they'd done for her. Madison held her ground and calmly explained that she'd come to her own conclusions about the situation. The final straw came when my father said, well, maybe if Sarah hadn't been so dramatic about her little health scare, none of this would have happened. Madison lost it. Dad, Sarah had a heart attack at 25 years old. She almost died. Her little health scare is a chronic condition that she'll deal with for the rest of her life. And when she needed help managing the costs, you told her you didn't have money, then turned around and gave me $45,000 for house renovations I didn't even ask for. That was different. How? How was upgrading my kitchen more important than helping Sarah afford her heart medication? Madison, you're twisting everything around, just like Sarah did. No, Dad. I'm seeing the situation clearly for the first time. And what I see is that you spent our entire lives prioritizing my wants over Sarah's needs, and now you're angry that there are consequences for that. My parents hung up on Madison too. That was 6 months ago. Since then, Madison and I have grown closer than we've ever been. She brings Emma to visit me in Seattle, and I go to Ohio to see them. We text daily, and she's become not just my sister, but my friend. My parents, meanwhile, have doubled down on their victim narrative. According to other family members, they're telling anyone who will listen that both of their daughters have turned against them, that we're ungrateful and cruel, that they did their best and don't understand why we're punishing them. But the family members who know the truth aren't buying it. Aunt Carol told me that at a recent family gathering, when my mother started complaining about her ungrateful daughters, my cousin Jennifer said, Linda, maybe if you treated them equally, you wouldn't be in this situation. Last month, my father had a minor health scare, nothing serious, thankfully, and my mother called both Madison and me, expecting us to drop everything and rush to his side. Madison went to the hospital and kept me updated, but she also made it clear to our parents that their actions have consequences. Dad, I'm here because I love you and I want to make sure you're okay. But Sarah isn't coming, and that's your fault, not hers. You've had 3 years to make this right, and you've chosen not to. According to Madison, this led to another fight about how we're both being unreasonable and holding grudges. But here's the thing, I'm not holding a grudge. A grudge would imply that I'm actively angry and resentful, that I'm stewing in negative emotions about the situation. That's not where I am. I'm disappointed. I'm hurt. But mostly, I'm at peace with my decision. I've built a life in Seattle that I love. I have friends who value me, a job that fulfills me, and a sense of self-worth that doesn't depend on my family's approval. I've learned that I don't have to accept treatment that hurts me, even from people who claim to love me. I've also learned that sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself is to step away from relationships that consistently diminish you. My parents email me occasionally, usually around holidays or family events, with messages that follow the same pattern. They miss me, they don't understand why I'm doing this to the family, and they hope I'll come to my senses soon. There's never any acknowledgement of their role in the situation, never any genuine apology, never any indication that they've reflected on their actions. Madison has tried a few times to mediate, suggesting family therapy or facilitated conversations. My parents have refused every suggestion, insisting that they've done nothing wrong and that Madison and I are the ones who need to change. A few weeks ago, Emma took her first steps. Madison called me immediately and we celebrated together over FaceTime. Later, she told me that when she shared the news with our parents, their first question was whether I had been there to see it. No, she wasn't here, Madison told them. But she was the first person I called, and she was so excited and happy for Emma. Well, it's sad that Sarah is missing out on these important moments because she's being stubborn, my mother replied. Mom, Sarah isn't missing out. She's actively involved in Emma's life. She's the one missing out because of your choices. I think about this conversation a lot because it perfectly illustrates the fundamental disconnect. In my parents' minds, I'm the one creating the distance, I'm the one being stubborn, I'm the one causing problems. They can't or won't see that my absence is a natural consequence of their actions. And maybe that's okay. Maybe some people are incapable of the kind of self-reflection and accountability that would be required to repair this relationship. Maybe some people will always see themselves as victims, no matter how much evidence suggests otherwise. What I know for certain is that I'm not responsible for managing their emotions or protecting them from the consequences of their choices. I'm not required to set myself on fire to keep them warm, and I'm not obligated to accept a relationship where I'm consistently devalued and then blamed for being hurt by that devaluation. I'm not writing this for sympathy or validation, though both are nice when they come. I'm writing this because I think there are a lot of people out there who are struggling with similar dynamics in their families, people who are being told they're overreacting or being too sensitive or holding grudges when they're really just trying to protect their own well-being. To those people, I want to say, you're not crazy. You're not being too sensitive. You don't have to accept treatment that hurts you, even from family members. And choosing to step away from relationships that consistently diminish you isn't selfish or cruel, it's necessary. I also want to say that it's possible to create a good life without the approval or participation of people who can't or won't treat you well. It's possible to find peace and happiness even when important relationships in your life are broken. It's possible to build a chosen family of people who value you and support you in ways your biological family never did. My relationship with my parents may never be repaired, and I've made peace with that. But my relationship with Madison has become stronger and healthier than it ever was before, and my relationship with myself has been transformed. I'm no longer the woman who begged for scraps of affection and acceptance from people who consistently withheld them. I'm no longer the daughter who twisted herself into knots trying to earn love that should have been freely given. I'm no longer the sister who accepted being treated as less than because it was easier than confronting the truth. I'm a woman who knows her worth, who has boundaries, who chooses relationships that add value to her life rather than detract from it. I'm a sister who is loved and valued by the family member who matters most to me. I'm an aunt who adores her niece and who will make sure that little girl grows up knowing that she deserves to be treated with respect and equality. And if my parents want to be part of that story, they know what they need to do. They need to acknowledge the truth of how they've treated me. They need to take responsibility for their choices and their impact. They need to show genuine remorse and commitment to doing better, not just expect me to forget and move on because it's easier for them. But I'm not holding my breath waiting for that to happen. I've learned that you can't force people to see what they don't want to see, and you can't make people care about your feelings if they're determined not to. What I can do is continue building the life I've created for myself. What I can do is be the aunt Emma deserves, the sister Madison needs, and the woman I'm proud to be. What I can do is share my story in case it helps someone else who's struggling with similar family dynamics. The truth is, my parents did teach me something valuable, just not what they intended. They taught me that family isn't automatically sacred just because you share DNA. They taught me that love without respect, support, and equal treatment isn't really love at all. They taught me that sometimes the people who claim to love you the most are the ones who hurt you the deepest, and that it's okay to protect yourself from that hurt, even if it disappoints them. They taught me that I deserve better, even if they can't provide it. Last week, Emma said mama as her first word, but when I visited 2 weeks ago, she kept reaching for me and trying to say what sounded like Sasa. Madison was so excited she cried, telling me that Emma clearly recognizes me and is trying to say my name. It was one of the most beautiful moments of my life, seeing that recognition in her eyes, knowing that I'm already important to this tiny person who will never remember a time when Aunt Sarah wasn't part of her world. When Madison told our parents about Emma's first word, my mother's response was predictable. It's such a shame that Sarah is missing out on so much of Emma's life because she's being stubborn. Madison's response was perfect. Mom, Sarah isn't missing anything. She talks to Emma on video calls almost every day. She was here last week playing with her, and she'll be here next month for Emma's first birthday. The only people missing out are you and Dad, because your stubbornness is keeping you from having a relationship with both of your daughters. And that, I think, is the real tragedy here. My parents are so invested in being right, so committed to their narrative that they're the victims in this situation, that they're willing to lose both of their daughters rather than admit they made mistakes. I used to think that was sad. Now I think it's just a choice they're making, and like all choices, it comes with consequences. Meanwhile, I'm planning Emma's first birthday party with Madison. I'm helping her pick out decorations and planning games for the other kids who will be there. I'm excited to watch Emma smash her first birthday cake, and to capture every moment on camera. My parents won't be there. Not because I'm keeping them away, but because they've chosen to remain in a dynamic where they can't acknowledge their mistakes or treat their daughters equally. That's their choice, and I've made peace with it. 3 years ago, I was drowning in medical debt, working myself to exhaustion, and begging my parents for help that never came. I was the daughter who accepted being treated as an afterthought, who made excuses for their favoritism, who twisted myself into knots trying to earn love that should have been freely given. Today, I'm financially stable, professionally fulfilled, and emotionally healthy. I'm surrounded by people who value me for who I am, not for how convenient I am to love. I have a relationship with my sister that's deeper and more honest than it's ever been. I have a niece who lights up when she sees me and who will grow up knowing that she has an aunt who loves her unconditionally. I have a life that I built for myself, with boundaries that protect my well-being and relationships that nourish my soul. My parents may never understand why I made the choices I made, and they may never take responsibility for the choices they made. But that's their journey to take or not take. Mine led me to Seattle, to a life I love, to relationships that sustain me, and to a sense of self-worth that no one can take away from me. And honestly, I've never been happier. So to my parents, if you ever read this, I don't hate you. I'm not trying to punish you. I'm simply living my life in a way that protects my well-being and honors my worth. The door to a relationship with me has always been open, but it requires you to walk through it with honesty, accountability, and genuine change. That's not negotiable, and it's not going to change because you're tired of the consequences of your actions. To Madison, thank you for seeing the truth and having the courage to acknowledge it. Thank you for becoming not just my sister, but my friend and ally. Thank you for showing Emma what it looks like to stand up for what's right, even when it's difficult. You've become the family member I always hoped you could be, and I love you more than words can express. To Emma, you won't remember any of this drama when you're older, and that's probably for the best. What I hope you will remember is that your Aunt Sarah loves you fiercely, that your mama is strong and brave, and that you deserve to be treated with respect and equality in all your relationships. Never accept less than you deserve, sweet girl, no matter who's offering it. And to anyone reading this who sees their own family dynamics reflected in my story, you're not alone, you're not crazy, and you're not being too sensitive. Your feelings are valid, your experiences matter, and you deserve to be treated with love, respect, and equality. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise, even if they share your DNA. Sometimes the most radical act of self-love is simply refusing to accept treatment that diminishes you. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away from relationships that consistently hurt you, even when those relationships are supposed to be sacred. And sometimes, the family you create for yourself is far healthier and more loving than the family you were born into. I'm living proof that it's possible to build a beautiful life from the ashes of broken family relationships. I'm living proof that you can choose love over obligation, health over tradition, and peace over keeping up appearances. My parents said they couldn't help me with my hospital bills, then renovated my sister's entire house. Now they're asking why I'm not around anymore. The answer is simple, because I finally learned that I deserve better than the scraps of love and attention they were willing to give me. Because I finally understood that their financial choices were just a symptom of a much larger pattern of favoritism and inequality. Because I finally realized that I don't have to accept being treated as less than, even by the people who gave me life. I'm not around anymore because I built a life somewhere else, with people who value me completely. I'm not around anymore because I learned that family is about how you treat people, not just how you're related to them. I'm not around anymore because I chose myself, finally and completely, and that choice led me away from them and towards something better. And I have absolutely no regrets.